In the back of the book segment today, Don Crutchfield, private detective, bodyguard, and author. Mr. Crutchfield has worked for such people as Judy Garland, Marlon Brando, and Carroll O'Conner in the drug-related death of his son. Don Crutchfield has written a book called Confessions of a Hollywood P.I., Babes in Babylon. You have quite an impressive client list here. I'm just going over it. And there are three areas I want to get in with you.
Okay.
First of all, you started bodyguarding primarily. Judy Garland was one of your clients, right?
When I was about 10 years old, I sat on Judy Garland's lap and she sang Over the Rainbow to me. When I was 22, she sat on my lap and I was her bodyguard.
Yeah, why did she need a bodyguard at that point?
She had a crazed fan of hers that had made a lot of statements like, if I murder Judy, I love her more than anything in the world, but if I murder her, we'll be together throughout eternity.
So
now,
this
that's Harry Banana times.
Yeah, this stalking stuff goes way back.
Oh, it goes way back,
right.
Yeah.
And how did you protect her from this nut?
Well, first of all, we put this guy under surveillance, and we just sort of did a reverse stalking, if you want to. I mean, we let him know that that wasn't going to happen, and I actually moved in at Judy's to make sure she was all right. But we just let this guy know every day that you're not going to do anything to Judy. We finally scared the hell out of the guy.
Mm-hmm. And he went away. You were lucky, because some of these guys never go away.
Oh, they're the most, I mean, I'm telling you, these people are the craziest people I have ever seen.
Yeah, they talk about
the
press, but the real danger.
Oh, these guys are nuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
and some women, too.
Some women. I had one that used to stalk Brando. She would get inside his house. She knew the dogs. She could get through the gate. She would slip in his house, take off her clothes, and run around naked in the house. And, I mean, Marlon would be sitting there like talking to his sister or something. He'd go, you see somebody go by here? And he'd go, oh, my God, it's her again. Call me. I've got to come over, put a blanket on her, take her home to her husband, and say, look, you know, Marlon doesn't want to arrest her. He's a nice guy.
But this goes on all the time in Hollywood, doesn't it?
This. I mean, that was harmless. I mean, where she wasn't going to kill him or anything.
But just the fact that she got access to a guy like Brando. Got access
to his house.
Yeah.
You know, what really scares me is when I read letters where they start describing like the grounds and what have you, because that tells me they've been on the property.
Right, they know what's going on.
And that bothers me.
The second area in which you participate is that certain stars hire you to solve problems for them. And this is the Carroll O'Conner situation, where his son was taking drugs.
Right.
Now, you got involved at the time where O'Conner's son was hanging out with Charles Bronson's son, correct?
Jill Ireland's adopted son. Jill Ireland and David McCallum, they adopted a son. His name was Jason. She was married to Charles Bronson at the time, and I was called in to investigate him using drugs. His best friend was Hugh O'Conner. These kids were in high school at the time, and I got to tell you something, they were like the boys next door. They both had a terminal disease, and it was drugs, and it killed both of them.
So you reported to their parents, in this case Bronson and Ms. Ireland, that her son was using drugs.
And we scared him straight for a while. And I mean, I was so proud of the fact, because he was a good kid, that he called me a year after I'd worked the case, and he said, Mr. Crutchfield, I just want to tell you something. I've been clean for a year, and it's all because of you.
Okay, but subsequently he relapsed.
He died of an overdose, and I felt terrible about that.
Right.
But
when you say you scared him straight, how did you do that?
It was a scenario you can only get away with in Hollywood. I mean, it was a thing where Charles Bronson got into character in the whole bit. You know, we said he was going to go to jail. All things were kind of things going to happen. He was 17 years old, and he was seeing this rock star's wife who was 33, and she was supplying him with cocaine. They had a secretary there that was like 24, drop-dead gorgeous. He was doing drugs with her. I had to get rid of those two people, first of all.
So basically you monitor his activity out there in Hollywood where it seems anything goes. Now, the Carroll O'Conner situation, you knew his son was using drugs. There's nothing you could do, right?
Deja vu. I'd come back and he said, Don, look, I got a hell of a problem here. And this guy here at Precision is selling him drugs. And he said, we try and get him rehabbed, and this guy seems to show up. Not saying he wouldn't get drugs from somebody else, but this guy made it so handy for him. So he said, I want to see what you can do about it. I helped the LAPD and the DA's office put this guy in jail, get him convicted. He got a year. He did 3 months. He comes out and he sues.
And he sues O'Conner. And, of course, he subsequently lost the lawsuit.
Which only in La La Land, what other judge would even hear it?
Well, those cases are noble. Now, here's something that may not be so noble here, Don. You do work for some tabloid outfits. Hard Copy is one of them, where you find out stuff about stars and then give it to them.
No. That's not necessarily true. I work for the media.
No, I'm not saying you do that all the time.
And I work for everybody from...
But let's take one example. You were chasing Michael Jackson.
Yeah, right? But I was not doing that for Hard Copy. But I was investigating what he was doing with this particular family. And I was probably the first person outside law enforcement to find out about the child molestation charges. I read the child service report, I read the police report, and I also read the deposition. And I got to tell you something, I'd have a hard time training Brando to do the part that 13-year-old kid did. So did I believe what he had to say? You bet I did.
So let me get this straight. You were investigating Michael Jackson in charges of child molestation, but who was paying you to do that?
I'm not going to tell you who it was, but it could have been any one of...
Just tell me, was it a newspaper?
It was a magazine.
It was a magazine.
A magazine.
So they were writing you a check, and they said, hey, Don, look, find out whether this is true or not.
Yes, right.
And you found out that it was true?
Well, I found out what had happened. I mean, everybody has to draw their own conclusions because...
Well, tell us what you found out.
Because what happened was he settled the thing and paid him somewhere around $40 million. As I said, I couldn't train Brando to do the part that this 13-year-old kid did. I don't have much good to say about all the adults involved in this scenario, but I got to tell you something, that kid's never going to be the same again. I don't care how much money you give. So
what you're saying to me is you investigated the case, you came out of it convinced the kid was telling the truth.
I did.
The 13-year-old was telling the truth.
Yes.
Then it went away because Michael Jackson wrote a big check.
Right.
And you don't like that very much.
No, because justice walked and money talked. I mean, that's just exactly what happened.
Do you think Jackson should have been prosecuted?
Yes, he should have been prosecuted immediately. He should have been arrested immediately. But what I think happened, and this is my own opinion, I think the DA's office stepped back and figured we're going to get information from the civil case, and then we'll go ahead and file our case. When they made the settlement, they lost their victim. See, if they'd have busted him in the first place, they would have had the victim. I don't care what you settled in the civil case, you had a criminal case filed.
Do you really believe that Gil Garcetti and the people out there in L.A. really wanted to prosecute this case? Because it would have been a zoo and it would have been all kinds of...
Yeah, but my God, look what happened, though. Look what happened. I mean, to me, that's... I've done a lot of things in my life, but one thing I won't do, I will not work for a pedophile. That's where I draw the line. If somebody's been accused of it falsely, I'd work to my dying breath, because it's the worst thing you can accuse somebody of. But not something like that. He should have done his job, plain and simple.
So he should have prosecuted Jackson.
You damn right he should have.
Still angry about this?
You bet I am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Worst thing you've ever seen?
It runs pretty close. I mean, and it's in my book. I mean, you read my book, and it explains just exactly what that boy had to say. And anybody that wants to draw their conclusions from that. I mean, I got the smoking gun in there, too. I got to tell you. Because there was a bodyguard that worked for him for years. And this guy is a very religious guy, and he's made a statement under oath that he picked up the phone, and it was Jackson's head of security. Jackson was calling the head of security, and they were having a fight about something. He knew it was Michael Jackson. He handed him the phone, and this guy said, Michael, I can't believe you. He said, I went to the grand jury, and I lied about you molesting these boys, and you won't let me fire this guy? I can't believe this.
Amazing. Well, Don, the book is Confessions of a Hollywood P.I., Babes in Babylon. You've just about seen it all out there, and we thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And next we'll wrap things up with the most ridiculous item of the day and some of your mail. Be right back.